What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Jamahal Hill defeats Glover Teixeira to become UFC champion. In the main event of UFC 283, Jamahal Hill played spoiler as Glover Teixeira sought to reclaim the 205-pound title he lost to Jiří Procházka last year. Early on, it became apparent that the athleticism of Hill was going to be a problem for the seasoned veteran as he repeatedly stuffed the former champ's takedown attempts and scrambled back to his feet when needed. Throughout the course of the fight, Hill continued to land big punches and massive combinations on Teixeira, opening up several cuts on the face of the fan favorite. While referee Mark Goddard allowed the action to continue, many expected the fight to be stopped going into the 5th round given how rough Teixeira looked. Despite that, the former champion answered the bell and went out for a 5th round, where he mounted one last attempt to win the fight with a successful takedown that he failed to capitalize on. With the loss, Teixeira has officially retired from the sport. During his post-fight Octagon interview, he laid his gloves in the center of the cage, closing the book on his storied career. With the win, Jamahal Hill now becomes the first Dana White's Contender Series alumni to touch UFC gold. For the Chicago-born fighter out of Grand Rapids, Michigan, the win cements his place atop the light heavyweight division. After the fight, many began to call for middleweight champion Alex Pereira, who trains with Glover Teixeira, to get a crack at the 205-pound belt. Given that Pereira was a 2-division Glory kickboxing champ, many are eager to see him try and avenge the loss of his longtime friend and training partner. At the same time, depending on how quick former champion Jiří Procházka is able to return to the octagon, we could be in for a great stand-up battle between Hill and the Czech Samurai. Of course, this all depends on how soon the newly crowned champion can make a return to the octagon after his 5-round affair with Teixeira. Who do you want to see him defend the belt against first? Give us your thoughts in the comment section below. Sean O'Malley thinks Khamzat Chimaev's move to middleweight is a good idea. According to Gilbert Burns, Khamzat Chimaev is set to return to middleweight after struggling to find an opponent at 170 pounds. During the lead-up to his showdown with Neil Magny this week, Burns revealed that he heard Chimaev was moving up to middleweight full-time. The news, of course, comes on the heels of Chimaev missing weight for his UFC 279 showdown with Nate Diaz, which forced the UFC to reshuffle the pay-per-view card during that fight week. After the fight, there was much talk of the UFC forcing Khamzat to move up to middleweight, but talk then began to surface of a #1 contender bout between the undefeated Chechen and Colby Covington. With no movement on the fight and no other 170-pound opponents on the horizon, Chimaev's move to middleweight could be a breath of fresh air. The way Sean O'Malley sees things, the move is an incredibly smart one for Chimaev. As someone who knows a thing or two about maintaining a strict diet between fights, Sugar Sean spoke about Chimaev's rumored move up in weight, saying,
"That'd be the smartest career move for that guy, because making 70, he has to be on a strict diet all year round. He can't f around once or twice. He's got it. I mean, he's not gonna make the weight. Going up to 185, you can eat, you can, be strong, do like that."
With no shortage of potential opponents, it'll be interesting to see who the UFC books him to fight. Who do you want to see him square off against? Give us your thoughts in the comment section below. Robert Whittaker thinks Jon Jones finishes Ciryl Gane on the ground. Ever since the UFC announced the UFC 285 main event scrap between Jon Jones and Ciryl Gane, fight fans have been debating how they think the scrap will play out. With odds being incredibly close for this fight, the fight community has been split on its predictions. With Gane fresh off a win over Tai Tuivasa, many are predicting that it'll be more of the same when he steps into the octagon with Jones. As a former interim heavyweight champion, Gane's activity and striking abilities could create problems inside the octagon for the former pound-for-pound kingpin when he returns to the cage. Despite that, with how skilled a fighter Jon Jones is, many believe his grappling abilities will see him coast to victory over Gane. With less than 2 months to go until this fight, former middleweight champion Robert Whittaker believes that Jones's grappling abilities will prove to be the X factor. He spoke in an interview with Fox Sports Australia, saying,
Jon Jones is going to take him down and lay on him and just finish him there. Jones's wrestling is next caliber. Nobody comes close to what Jon Jones can produce in the octagon. This is my opinion. But if you look at his statistics, he can take people down with ease. He can grapple them with ease.
How do you see things playing out when the two men step into the octagon? Give us your predictions in the comments section down below. Before we continue, make sure you give that like button some love and be sure to subscribe to the MMA Zone for all of the latest news. Charles Oliveira eyeing April return. After Charles Oliveira lost to Islam Makhachev in the main event of UFC 280 back in October, the UFC offered him a fight at UFC 283 in Rio de Janeiro. Unfortunately for fight fans, the former champion turned down the opportunity, leaving many to question when he'll make his return to the octagon to begin the journey back to title contention. This week, the champion revealed that by the end of the year, he hopes to be right back in the title mix. With Conor McGregor yet to enter the USADA testing pool, Oliveira is setting his sights on the top of the lightweight division. He spoke in an interview to discuss his plans for his return to the octagon, saying, "My focus is to fight in April, and then fight for a title at the end of the year. Everybody is talking about Dariush, but I think I need to think with my mind, not really my heart. If the UFC thinks he's the name, it's fine. Let's see what I decide." While a fight with top-ranked Beneil Dariush may seem like the obvious answer here, many have also expressed an interest in seeing Oliveira and Dustin Poirier square off in a highly anticipated rematch. Who do you want to see the former champion fight when he returns to the octagon? Give us your thoughts in the comment section below. Brandon Moreno defeats Deiveson Figueiredo in 4th showdown. In the co-main event of UFC 283, Brandon Moreno earned the win over longtime rival Deiveson Figueiredo as he unified the UFC's flyweight championship. Moreno seemed to be the better fighter throughout the course of this bout, battering Figueiredo as he opened a cut under the eye of his longtime rival, while causing a tremendous amount of swelling that forced doctors to ultimately stop the fight. After the bout, Figueiredo had fight fans concerned as he began to take his gloves off inside the octagon, a move that traditionally indicates a fighter is retiring. Despite that, he revealed that he plans to move up to 135 pounds following the loss. With a brutal cut to 125 pounds, the former champion now sets his sights on a new division and new challenges. With bantamweight being one of the most stacked divisions in all of MMA, there's no shortage of potential opponents for Figueiredo. On the flip side of things, with a record of 2-1-1 over Figueiredo, Brandon Moreno now finds himself looking to defend the flyweight title. With Alexander Pantoja fresh off a win over Alex Perez back at UFC 277, the Cannibal is likely the next man up at 125 pounds. When he and Moreno step into the octagon, who do you think leaves with the title? Jose Aldo set to be inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame. During the UFC 283 broadcast, it was announced that the promotion would be enshrining former featherweight kingpin Jose Aldo into the UFC Hall of Fame. As the inaugural featherweight champion, Aldo's reign as both WEC and UFC featherweight champion saw him transcend eras in MMA. After his run as featherweight champion, Aldo dropped to bantamweight, proving himself as a contender in the division before ultimately calling it a career. While he plans to make his professional boxing debut this year, Aldo has remained adamant that he will not compete in MMA anywhere but the UFC. Drop some of your favorite moments from Aldo's career in the comments section below. And now for our breaking news story of the day. Gilbert Burns defeats Neil Magny via first-round submission. Former welterweight title challenger Gilbert Burns returned to the win column in a big way as he ran through the winningest fighter in the history of the UFC's welterweight division, Neil Magny. Going into this fight, Burns was adamant that he was not content on just getting a win over Magny. He wanted to make a statement. When the octagon door closed behind the pair, Burns wasted no time going to work, ultimately earning himself a first-round submission win over Magny, who has now been submitted twice in his last 3 fights. With this victory, Burns returns to the win column after dropping a narrow decision loss to Khamzat Chimaev last year. While many expected the win to set up a fight with Jorge Masvidal, who Burns was eagerly pursuing a fight with prior to the booking against Magny, he used his post-fight octagon interview to call out Colby Covington. Covington, who had been linked to a welterweight #1 contender fight with Khamzat Chimaev, has not fought since his win over Jorge Masvidal early last year. Given that the Leon Edwards vs. Kamaru Usman trilogy fight is on for UFC 286, a #1 contender bout between Covington and Burns, who took little damage in the fight with Magny, could be up next. On the flip side of things, the loss for Magny, who was ranked at number 12 on the UFC's official rankings prior to the loss, could very well find him clinging to a spot in the top 15. With Michael Chiesa and Michael Pereira at number 13 and 14 in the rankings, he could look to return against one of these two men before the end of the year. Who do you want to see Burns fight next? Give us your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you so much for joining us today. What do you make of what's going on in the fight world? Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on all the latest news from the MMA Zone. See you next time.